Hi, Richard.
Hi, Angela.
How are you today?
I am doing okay. After yesterday's photo shoot, though, I've been a little, I keep on thinking I have to be smiling all the time, like, you know.
I felt like a wax figure yesterday. we took new headshots, which was so cool. We had a real professional photographer come out here, and she really did it up.
She did, but there was like 1,000 shots we took, right? And you're like, is that a good smile? You know, cock your head. You know?
My cheeks hurt today.
Yeah, but you look, I mean, how you feeling?
I'm a little tired today.
You are?
I gotta say, the toddlers are not interested in sleeping.
Ooh, I remember those days.
The 2.5-year-old has figured out how to climb out of her crib.
Ooh, brutal.
Which, like, if you're a parent, you know this is like one of the worst days of your life. Because you can't just close the door and let them cry anymore. You know, they're coming for you.
Yeah, their freedom is compromised. You put like grease on the door handle so they can't open it.
Yeah, well, they make these little things you can put, but of course I have oval shaped door handles, so that's not going to fly in my house. But
well, plus you wouldn't want to leave them if there was a fire. You want them stuck in the room.
Yeah, no, it's not safe, to do that. But oh man, they, one kept me up until 10:45, and then the 2.5-year-old climbed out of her crib at 3 a.m. and just standing there by my bedside, Mama. I'm like, it jerks you awake. What's going on?
You have had the worst luck with your kids in sleeping.
My kids are vampires. They do not sleep. I don't know. It's like the universe knew that I really loved sleep and said, okay, Angela, this is going to be your parenting journey. We're going to knock sleep out of your repertoire.
That's the worst.
You're never sleeping again.
Then you have to go to work and be like, oh yeah, I'm really happy and chipper and everything.
I got to come do this podcast.
I just want to eat your head off.
I got to crawl under the table when we're done and take a nap, maybe.
Exactly.
And, we made sure to go with like the sexiest topic ever today.
Oh, yeah. So I'll push you, I'll douse you with water if you fall asleep.
If you hear a thump, it's him kicking me under the table.
If you're a small business employer or owner, it's kind of an interesting topic because there's a lot of different options. Some of them stink. And some of them are phenomenal, right? This
is true, yeah. And I think there's a lot that people don't know about out there, So.
Hopefully we can shed some light on it after we do this. Welcome to A Place of Possibility. I'm Richard Del Monte.
I'm Angela Wright.
And we're happy you're here with us today. So the topic again is small business retirement plans. It does sound kind of boring, right? Stay awake, everybody. Stay awake. Okay, so there are a lot of diverse options, right? And so we're gonna go from the most simple ones up to the more complex ones. And hopefully when you leave this, when we're done, you'll have a better sense of what's available for you.
Yeah. So we'll detail out the different kinds of plans and who might want to use them. And then we'll talk about some factors that you need to consider in setting up your plan.
Right. And of course, you can always get a hold of us at info@aplaceofpossibility.com and ask your questions. And we're happy to help you. You don't have to be a current client of ours. We're happy to help. So at any time. Do you remember Cliff Notes?
Who didn't use them?
We're dishing out lots of great takeaways for you and realize it might be helpful to provide you with our version of Cliff Notes, aka DMG's Know Your Possibilities Guide.
To access the tool, download it, and share it, just head on over to the show notes page on our website for this episode and have fun. Take notes, and if you have questions, getting in touch with us is super easy. Just send an email to info@aplaceofpossibility.com or call 925-736-6410. Well
done. Okay, so let's talk about the simple ones. And the most simple one of all that's an employee plan is called a simplified. What amazing!
I'm laughing because the most simple one is not called the simple, but there is one called a simple.
There is one. Simple IRA. Amazing, right?
So you have the easiest one to do traditionally is the Simplified Employee Pension, the SEP IRA.
Right.
You've probably heard of this if you own a business.
Every accountant in the world's heard about it. It's all I ever hear them recommending, it seems like.
Yeah.
But the contribution limits are 25% of the employee's compensation up to a maximum of $58,000.
That's great.
Okay, so it's not bad, right? So if you make like $290,000, which I think is the highest amount of compensation they consider, you can do $58,000. So in exchange for it being simple, of course, they kind of make it, you can't do a lot of shenanigans. We all know the employers like to do a lot of shenanigans, right?
Sure, yeah. You want to contribute a lot for yourself, but especially I find with folks who have a lot of part-time employees, you're not wanting to do a lot for them.
So they want to say, how do I put in everything for myself and nothing for my employees? Yeah. Well, the SEP is not the way to go for that plan.
No.
But so you have to cover all your employees. equally the same percentage, and these are only employer contributions, so the employees can't put anything in themselves. That's the rule. And no special treatment for the employers. Super easy to set up and to run. No annual reporting. Some of these things we talk about are going to have like annual tax returns they have to file, stuff like that. Not for this. It's very simple. But again, every time you put in money for your employees, it's 100% vested in them. So if they quit the day after you made your contribution, bye-bye money, because it's theirs. Okay.
So I like SEPs for business owners who, that 25% of your comp or 58,000, that number works for you. So you're not earning, loads and loads of money and you don't have employees. Once you start to have employees, this is a simple way to do a retirement plan for your employees and say, I just want to contribute 3% across the board to my staff. You can do that. It's a simple way, but you have to keep that going, and it's all 100% vested. So if you wanted a little more control, there are better options for you. Right,
which we're going to get into. But the more control is not the next one, which is called the Simple IRA.
This one's called the Simple IRA.
Right.
It's not that simple.
And you can't do it on your own, so it's not that simple, right? Yeah. Exactly.
Simple is actually an acronym, and I forget what it's for.
Oh, that's right. It is,
but I forget what it's for.
It
doesn't mean simple.
Self-employed, no.
No, I can't remember now, but it is an acronym. We promise.
Maybe we'll tell you next time. We'll keep you on. Maybe you can Google it and find out yourself. So the rules are, it's only for employers that have 100 employees or less. And it's very simple. So you have two choices if you're the employer. You could provide a 3% match for your employee contributions, or you can contribute a flat 2% for everything, for every single one, whether they contribute or not. Yeah. So if you have employees that contribute, you have to give them 3%. If they don't contribute, you give them nothing. That's kind of cool. If you have a lot
matching is a great way to have a little control over your employee contributions.
Right. Employer, you mean?
Employer
contributions. Yeah. Employee contributions for your employees.
There you go. Yes.
Okay.
Told you I was tired.
I know, right? Yeah. Okay, but the weird thing is, how 401ks have like 19.5, you can put in 19,500. Yeah. The simple plans, they haven't been keeping up with whatever's going on with the other plans. The maximum employee contribution per year, if you're under 50, is 13,000. Go figure. And the maximum over 50 catch-up contribution is 3,000. So 13,000, 16,000 versus 19.5 for the 401k and 26.
I think they're trying to discourage people from setting these up.
I guess, but it's whatever.
That makes sense to me.
Right.
But, so you have maybe lower paid staff that won't be contributing as much. The 19.5 isn't an issue for them. You still want something simple. You want a little control over whether or not you're matching folks. Right. You want them to have some skin in the game.
Right.
A simple can be a good option for that.
But you can't put any more than 13,000 in either.
Yes, so
kind of not so good.
If you're not making a lot, it's a good simple way to do it.
If your advisor has you in a simple plan and you're a small business owner,
call us, hurry.
Yeah, make a phone call. I don't know. It's not good. These are also 100% vested. So as soon as you make contributions, the employees can walk away with it. Super easy to administer because there's nothing going on, and there's very low cost. You're not filing returns or anything. Yeah. Okay. Next, Keogh plans, which it's named after a senator, right?
I'm pretty sure that's a senator who wrote the law.
Senator Keogh.
Yeah. And no one really talks about these anymore because there are other options, but they exist. Yeah,
they're not the best. But again, old-timey advisors who haven't really been getting their continuing ed credits are still using these things. This is not the way to go, honestly. But they are still out there. And there are two different kinds of Keogh plans. One of them is a profit sharing plan. No, there's actually three. Profit sharing plan, money purchase plan, and there's also a defined benefit plan.
Okay, what's the difference?
So profit sharing is where you contribute a certain amount per year for each employee. Mm-hmm. And the money purchase plan is a more static amount that you put in every year. And a defined benefit plan is like a pension. It's the exact same. It is a pension for all intents and purposes. So we're going to cover that in a little bit.
Okay.
But they are, again, the contribution limits are 25% of compensation up to 58,000. So they're like a SEP in that regard. But they require a third-party administrator, TPA. Why? Because they have some other little bells and whistles, like you can discriminate against certain people, certain classes of people. You can, for example, make it so that people can't get into the plan unless they've been with you for a year. You can add a vesting schedule. So if they do leave the day after you make a contribution, they might not get anything.
Yep.
But the schedule is either they call it 3-year cliff, which basically means what?
As it sounds, you're not vested for 3 years, and at the end of that 3 years, 100% is vested.
Right.
You often see in 401k and company retirement plans like a 5-year, you get 20% each year.
Right. So you get at the beginning of the 6th year, you get 100% vested, right? Yeah. Which is more common because people they want to have some kind of golden handcuffs, typically employers.
Of course.
And to keep the employees there. Who wants to see the money walk out the door? Okay, obviously these little bells and whistles that you have in there require a third-party administrator, which is like an accountant for your
basically
profit sharing plan, for your Keogh plan.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I like
it's an
that.
accountant.
Yeah.
And you have to file a tax return for the retirement plan every year, and it's called a Form 5500. Like you have a 1040 for you, it's a 5500 for your employee plan.
Yep.
Okay. So that's sort of the thing about the Keogh plans, and we'll cover the defined benefit portion of a Keogh next. The next one is a 401k plan. You want to cover that?
Yeah, I mean, you probably heard of this before.
Yeah, maybe you've heard of it.
You probably have had one if you've ever worked a job.
Yeah.
So your standard 401k plan, just like what we were talking about with the Keogh, you do need a third-party administrator to set these puppies up.
Yep.
They require you to file that annual 5,500 tax return, but they work for companies of all sizes, whether you have 1 employee or 500 employees. Your employees under age 50 contribute $19,500 on their own.
Up to,
excuse me.
Yeah.
If they're over age 50, you can add an additional $6,500, so they can put in up to $26,000, and then you can choose matching or profit sharing on top of that for your employer portion. Should you choose to do that, you're not required to do so in a 401k plan. You can have a vesting schedule like the ones we just discussed, or you could make up different vesting schedules. What else about 401k?
Yeah, like if you want to put in money for yourself and you're the owner, you have to give your employees some kind of a match or some kind of you have to keep it legal. So you can't say, well, I'm putting in my 26,000 plus my other 58,000, but my employees, oh, well, too bad.
Yeah.
They don't let you do that. That's a violation of the, whatever the rules are.
Is that the safe harbor rule?
That's one of them. Yeah. Safe harbor. There's different ways of doing it. And if you get a TPA, they can come up with these crazy plans that are like age weighted. So the older people can put in more money, way more than the younger people. Great. This is where it gets a little. If you're the employee, you start becoming unhappy knowing how these things work because it's like so grossly unfair. Yeah, but basically, the theory is you're older, you're 55 or 60 years old, you have less time to fund this thing, so you could put in more than your employees who are 20 years old. So in that sense, it seems fair. Yeah. Although it's probably not.
It is in that way. And I think the other cool thing about 401k plans is that you can have a Roth provision for yourself and for your employees. So it's another great way to get money into Roth IRAs, which we recently did a show about. And there's a lot of limitations if you make too much money. So if you want a plan that has all the bells and whistles for your staff, getting that after-tax money in there, the 401k is a good option with the Roth.
For sure. Offer it to them because it makes a big difference. And you could do it yourself too.
Yeah.
But remember, only the employee contributions, the salary reduction plans, the part that comes out of their paycheck, is eligible for Roth. Yeah. The employer contributions always have to be deductible, unfortunately. Darn. But that's just how it goes. Yeah. What else can we say about these things? I mean, everybody pretty much knows. You have to be if you're a company, you have to be a for-profit company. You can't be nonprofit or not for profit, whatever, to be able to have a 401k. There's other plans for you if you do that.
Well, I think there's something that a lot of people don't know about 401k contribution limits that, doesn't get talked about a lot, but there's this little extra window in there.
Yeah, how about that?
I mean,
isn't that amazing?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't know this, but you're actually capped for your total 401k contribution. So this is what you put in plus what your employer puts in for you. That's capped at $58,000 a year.
Right.
So if you put in your $19,500, and let's say your employer even matches you at 100%. Yeah. You're still not at $58,000. You can actually contribute the difference into your 401k plan. And if you're not, you're missing out on opportunities to get that money put away and growing tax deferred for your retirement.
Right. The catch is if you put money in addition to what you and your employer are putting in for yourself through your salary reduction and what they give you, it's actually after tax contributions, right?
But what can you do with after-tax 401k?
Let me think. Yeah. So what you can do, which is amazing, is you can, as soon as you make the after-tax contribution, you can immediately convert it to Roth. Put it in your Roth 401k. So you know how Roth IRAs are like, what is it, $6,000?
Yes.
They're so stingy with these things. And maybe you can go to 7 if you're a older person. You can go, you're putting in, if you're a person that's over 50, you're putting in $26,000 in your Roth right out of your salary. Plus you could put in another potentially 20, 25, 30,000. If your employer doesn't match at all or give you anything, you could put in 57,000 all the way into a Roth in any given year. Assuming your income is that high. It has to be that high.
Of course.
But these are unknown things. You have to, first of all, the employer has to offer that, has to allow you to be able to put in after-tax contributions. Mm-hmm. And they have to be able to allow you to convert it into a Roth, do a conversion, or let you roll it out into a Roth IRA. But I mean, this is an amazing opportunity for people that want to just jam money in after tax. Yeah. And we've talked about reasons why we want to have after tax money for people, or non-tax money for people that are retired, right?
Yeah.
What happens if you have it all in a retirement account that's taxable?
Yeah, I mean, every time you want to take a draw out, you're adding to your taxable income all year long. I mean, you want to have different buckets that you can draw from.
Right. You want to pull out $40,000 to buy a car, you're going to have to pull out 60, pay the tax, and end up with 40. Ugh. It just becomes terrible. So that's a way to get around it. Now, here's another one that a lot of people don't really understand or know about. What if you're a very small company and it's just like you and your spouse? What would you do then?
I could get real crazy. Am I making a lot of money?
Yeah,
let's say I'm doing really well.
Let's say you're doing well.
Yeah, and am I over 50?
Let's say you are.
Oh boy. Well, in that case, I'm thinking I'm going to go to the IRS and say, well, I'm going to need a couple $100,000 a year in income after I retire in 5 years. I better pump that into a plan starting right now. What can I do?
Yep. So we're going to talk about these defined benefit plans. Oh, incidentally, I forgot. Solo 401k.
Oh gosh, how can we forget about those?
So Solo K is basically for a sole proprietor that doesn't have any employees other than maybe a spouse, wife or husband.
You can have a spouse.
Yeah. And so you can do the same thing everything we talked about, but it's just for you.
Yes.
And the only thing is you don't have to have a third-party administrator. You can go to Vanguard, you can go to Schwab and open up a Roth 401k, and you can contribute to both regular. You can divvy up your contributions however you want. The employee contributions, not the employer ones, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So getting back to the really good ones, the first one we're going to talk about is a defined benefit plan. Yeah. So in most, like a 401k or a KEO, they're typically you're defining how much is going into the plan. That's called a defined contribution. And you don't know what's going to come out the other side, right? Hopefully if you invest it well, it makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
But in a defined benefit plan, you're saying, this is what we want coming out at this person's retirement. It's, how you get these pensions, like I get $5,000 a month pension or whatever. Mm-hmm. Those are defined benefit plans.
I know.
Who's been out of sleep here? And so you basically are defining what's coming out the other end. Yeah. So a defined benefit plan for a small business owner, you could just jam in a ton of money. So let's just say that you were super successful and you were making $277,000 a year, which is the maximum pensionable earnings in 2021. If you were 60 years old, you could put in deductible $228,000 into your defined benefit plan and write off every penny. So all your pay, if you make $277 and you're deducting $228, you're only paying tax on $49,000 of your income. Ooh, how about that?
That's amazing.
Isn't that something?
$250,000 just went into your retirement.
Yeah, it went into your retirement account. You pay tax later.
That's fabulous.
That is amazing. That's for a 55-year-old can put in that same scenario, $224. So 50 to 65 years old is kind of the sweet spot for those things. And you also have to cover your employees. But guess what? Someone 30 or 20 years old, you get little teeny tiny amounts for them. Yeah. So this is another one where the lesser paid younger people can be kind of upset about it, think it's not fair, but they'll end up with the same amount at retirement.
Well, I think I can speak for the lesser paid. I'm not a lesser paid person, but I can speak for some of those people and say that to get defined benefit contributions is pretty unheard of, you know, if you're under 40 years old. So to get that from your employer is something to be really grateful for. And so I don't think, you know, if you came to me and said, hey, miss, you know, lesser compensated employee, I'm going to be giving you, you know, $2,000 a year in your retirement account that I otherwise wouldn't be getting. I'm saying, yeah, sounds good. You know, I as the employee will never know what he can do in his account. So
you find out.
I won't really know the disparity.
If you're watching this podcast, so you go ask, how much are you putting in, Mr. Employer?
I think if you are a younger person and you have a defined benefit plan, just be grateful that you have a defined benefit plan and also, you know, save 10% of your income somewhere else.
Right. Because you'll be getting statements from your employer saying at 60 years old, if you stay here, or 65, you're going to be getting $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month for the rest of your life. So that's what you're getting. You have if your small business is giving you a defined benefit plan, that's a pension. Yeah. That's fabulous, right? Yeah. Nobody does that.
No.
Nobody does that.
Stay, if that's your case.
All right. So again, the downside of that is they're very inflexible. Yeah. You have to put in money every year, and the minimum amount is 3 years. So, you know, if you have a good year when you first started and then you have 2 lousy years or something, sorry, you got to come up with the money.
Yeah. If you were really a travel agent last year.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Can you imagine? Right now, yeah, you own a hotel. Oh, my gosh. You know. Yeah. So you also have to have a third-party administrator, a TPA, to administer this, because you can imagine how complicated they are. Yeah. They cost more to administer because they need, what are those guys?
The actuaries.
Actuaries, yeah. Senior moment. Actuary. To figure out how much you can put in and how much you have to put in for each employee. And they also have vesting. So again, the same kind of thing that as we talked about in the KEO plans. Okay. Then the cash balance plan. This is kind of the Lollapalooza one.
Lollapalooza.
I can't even believe the flexibility in these things. So we have a person, this is basically where you're saying it's kind of a hybrid of the defined benefit and a defined contribution. Okay. But you basically say, this is how much I want to put in. And they'll say, okay, you keep putting that in and we'll let you put in more in a good year or less in a bad year, as long as the trajectory is the same. So for example, we have a person who had made $77,000 and he was 55 years old. And he was able to put in $100,000 in his deductible cash balance plan. You're telling us
that he put more than his earned income. Okay, break it down for me. How did he do that?
It's just the calculations are that you could put in $100,000 and you could go up to 150 or down to 80 in any given year. You can that's the swing, and you have to basically just set what's the number I want to put in, you know, and then you have like a range that you have to stay in to be able to stay in the game. It's crazy. So you have a good year. You know what? I had a really good year. I'm going to put in 150 this year. Then later on, you have to offset it by putting in less in a crummy year, but whatever, you know. Yeah. So even if you say I want to put in 100 a year, you could put in 150 a year for several years.
So it's, if I'm, you know, looking at maybe a defined benefit, but I'm not sure of how my income is going to be, this is a great option for me.
Yep. It gives you more. It's kind of like rigidly flexible, sort of. You know, it gives you a little bit more flexibility. I call what I say flexible rigidity.
I'll take it. Flexible rigidity.
Yeah, right. So those are kind of the gist of the basics of all the plans that are available to small business owners. Now, what would you walk through when you're having to help someone figure out which one of these crazy myriad ones on this menu that I would pick?
Yeah. The first question I'm always going to ask is, do I have staff I want to contribute for or not? Yeah. Because that's going to lead me in one direction or another.
And how generous do I want to be, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So then the second question I'm always going to ask is, how much do I want to put away? Because these plan limitations will dictate how much we can do.
Right.
And then from there, it's, you know, how much do we want to deal with in terms of filing tax returns and headaches? Do we want or need that flexibility in terms of, you know, vesting schedules for our employees, or you know, being able to change my contribution amount year over year, things like that.
Right.
What else?
Well, that's the basic, that's the gist of it. I mean, if you want to look at what your primary goals are, why do you want to establish this plan? And, you know, if we're honest, most employers want to benefit themselves.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah.
And they want it, and they'll begrudgingly do whatever they have to do for the employees. Now, other ones are really happy to provide a really good benefit. They care about their employees, and they want to give them a really good benefit. You know, they want to be very generous with them. So, you know, it just really depends on your scenario, but you should not ever, don't you think, go into a any one of these plans without having talked it through with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, get all of your options first.
Yeah.
Google can tell you a lot about what to do, but I would chat this over with somebody first. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Google could tell you how to do your own heart surgery as well. If you're, just go on YouTube. Plenty of options. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know that it would be. I think you should get some help from somebody. You can talk to a pension administrator. That would be good, but they're going to steer you away from the easy ones, the simplified employee pensions and things like that, because they don't get paid anything. So everybody's got an angle.
Sure.
But I think if you could talk to somebody who would that be? That would be middle of the road and objective.
Get yourself a fiduciary.
info@placeofpossibility.com. Yeah. But we don't have a dog in this hunt. We just want to help you figure out what's the right thing to do and put you in the right plan that will serve you better. You'd be surprised how fast the end of your career comes, and then all of a sudden you wish that you had done something different.
Tell us how fast it comes.
I don't know. I have no idea. Personally,
I wouldn't know any. I have 30 years to go here. I have toddlers still. I'll be working until my dentures fall out.
And so the other thing, of course, is the cost. And some of these plans will cost between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, even for a small company our size. What do we have to pay?
Yeah, I think our fees are like $1,500 a year for
each plan, though, right? We have a couple different plans.
Yes, per plan.
Yeah,
that's right.
So that's
so we have a question, our Q&A today.
Yes.
It actually goes nicely with this topic. I get asked all the time, but how do I invest my 401k assets?
Oh, good one.
Because the 401k plan is really just like the car that we're getting in to go to retirement, but like what kind of fuel are we going to put in this car, and how fast or slow are we going to drive? What route are we taking? I mean, like once you've decided what plan you're doing, you have all of these additional decisions to make in terms of how to invest it. So a couple of things that we tell people to think about. Your time horizon. This is like any risk tolerance conversation, right? There are some best practices, but it comes down to, how you feel when you open your statement at the end of the month. And so, from the best practice standpoint, it's how much time do you have? The longer you have, the more risk you can take. If you're, me at 40 years old, my 401k is sitting very aggressively invested, globally diversified. If you're Richard and he's got forever. If you're 70 and you want to retire tomorrow, maybe you're more like 60% in stock and 40% in bonds and other fixed income. You may be limited by your options on your plan. And so that might also steer which of these you go with. And like if you're the business owner making these decisions and you're very specific about what you want to invest in, you'll want to choose something that, don't go set up a John Hancock 401k if you want to buy, I don't know, Tesla in your 401k, right? Like that's not going to work.
Not going to work.
So you have to pay attention to that and what your options are. What do you think about all the age-based
That's
things?
What I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
The lifestyle funds, they have called lifestyle age-based, like they'll say like retirement date 2040 or 2060 or 2070, whatever.
So, okay, I think that these are good options if you're the type of person that wants to throw your money in the plan and never look at it again. Like, please do not ask me to rebalance my account. I don't want to think about it.
Right.
This is a good option because it solves that problem of, as I get older, do I need to get more conservative with my investments? And it just does it automatically for you.
Yeah.
And that therein is where my issue lies, is that I think it gets too conservative too early,
right?
For many investors. And so, by your retirement date, it's got you like almost no stock in your portfolio. Well, if you've been listening to our podcast and you've heard the one on investing, you've heard you need to stay invested even during your retirement because of inflation.
That's right.
So, even I wouldn't have somebody that conservative on the day they retire.
Yep. Always going to need stocks in your portfolio.
Yeah. Always. So I think they're okay when you're younger, but as you get older, you might want to have, hire somebody, which advisors will advise on your 401k plan and help you rebalance it regularly, or just, select maybe 70-30 or 60-40 portfolio and let it ride from there.
Yeah. I'd much rather go with of course we're kind of geeky about these plans, but I'd rather pick the funds that I'm going to be in.
Yeah.
And you can have the plan rebalance itself.
Yes.
Systematically. Those are great.
Yes. And many of them now will do that on their own. Like you can set a parameter. If any one fund goes 5% higher or lower than the percentage I want, like let's say I want, my international equity to be 10% of my total portfolio. If it goes to 15 or 5, rebalance it automatically. Right. And that's cool. That's a newer feature of 401k plans that I really like.
Right. Because if you start out a plan where you have say 50-50, let's say 50% stock, 50% bonds, and you just do nothing, in 10 years, it's probably going to be 80 or 90% stock and 10% bonds, just because the stocks have grown to the sky.
They grow at a faster rate.
They grow much faster, and they're like a hedge or some kind of a vine that just takes over your whole portfolio and swamps it out. And so you started out maybe at a very good risk tolerance for yourself, but if you didn't rebalance it somehow, systematically, you're going to end up being way more aggressive, and you get into one of these 50% down markets, and all of a sudden you just lost half your money. Like, what?
Yeah.
I thought I had it set up conservatively. Yeah. So you really have to be careful about that. No set and forget.
Oh, yeah, no.
Right? Yeah, for
Not
sure.
in your 401k.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I would watch out for is your own company stock. So a lot of us get excited and we want to buy our company stock. It's amazing. You might even have some sort of discounted purchase plan, which you should definitely take advantage of. But our hard and fast rule for most people here is no more than 10% of your total net worth should be invested in any one stock position. So even if that's, and think about it, that's where your current income comes from. And, you've got your investment portfolio growing there. You just really want to keep, if you are exercising stock options, shave them off so they're never more than 10% of your total portfolio.
Hopefully.
And you think that's it on how to invest the 401k.
Yep.
If there are more questions, you can send them to info@aplaceofpossibility.com.
Yep. And we appreciate you being here, and we will see you next time. I think we're going live here pretty quick, aren't we?
I heard in a couple of weeks.
I heard. Rumor has it we're going live soon on
Facebook.
What is it on
Facebook?
Facebook and YouTube and something else. I don't know. Who knows?
All the things.
It'll be great. Yeah, all the things. Yeah.
We'll be in your face. You won't be able to miss us.
Yeah, well, you'll be everywhere. We'll be ubiquitous. Anyway, thanks a lot for your time and for watching. We hope it's been interesting. Please send us your questions at info@aplaceofpossibility.com. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.
Bye.